TikTok user Jose Maria Rios Castillo, a biker, along with his friends, were riding along a dirt road one night when something strange appeared on his camera. As Jose broke away from the group and took a narrow trail, his bike light caught a sudden movement in the middle of the path. What he saw looked like a woman wearing a black gown, with long brown hair completely covering her face. Some say it could have been a tree trunk or just a trick of the shadows in the night. Others think the way Jose immediately reacted shows he wasn't convinced it was ordinary. Reddit user Sarah Shoots Film was hiking along a remote desert trail with a group when they came across something that immediately stopped them in their tracks. In the middle of the empty landscape, there was a baby cot. Nearby, a few scattered pieces of clothing made the scene even more unsettling. Feeling uneasy, they carefully checked the cot. Unfortunately, it was empty. Still, the discovery raised questions. Some suggested it may have simply been left behind after a camping trip, but others weren't so sure. A man in Africa captured something interesting one morning.
Y'all seen this? Y'all see that? Look at that. This takes place in Africa. What is that? What was that we just saw? Wow.
An object was flying fast, gliding smoothly through the air. It had no visible wings, engines, or lights, and it didn't make any sound. Some thought it could be a new type of aircraft, a human-made invention testing unusual flight patterns. Others wondered if it might be something not from here. Does it look familiar to you? A woman named Hannah Moody, a 31-year-old hiker known for sharing her outdoor experiences online, set out alone in the Arizona desert. It was supposed to be a routine hike. Earlier that day, she headed toward the Gateway Trailhead in the McDowell-Sonoran Preserve near Scottsdale. When she stopped responding to messages later that evening, concern quickly grew. Friends reported her missing, and when authorities checked the area, they found her car still parked at the trailhead, but there was no sign of her. A large search effort began. Police, drones, and helicopters combed the desert through the night. The next morning, search teams made a heartbreaking discovery. Hannah's body was found roughly 600 yards off the trail. Investigators reported no signs of foul play or trauma. What makes the story especially haunting is how normal everything seemed just hours before. She had shared positive messages, talking about enjoying her hikes and appreciating life. A powerful and heartbreaking reminder of how quickly things can change. May she rest in peace. A woman in New Mexico was home alone late one night at her desert home when something outside her window caught her attention. She checked her security camera and saw this. A figure moving slowly through the darkness, lit only by the faint glow of the moon. At first it was clearly visible, but as she kept watching, something unsettling happened. The figure simply disappeared from the frame. Some people believe it could have been a camera glitch or a compression error, but if that's true, then there had to be someone out there in the first place, which raises an even more unsettling question. Who was outside her home that night, and why were they in such a remote location? Others think it could be something harder to explain, something that was never fully there to begin with. A Redditor was walking through a remote area of the California desert when they came across this. 3 mobile phones, lying on the ground, completely burned. But that wasn't all. Scattered around them were remnants of burnt mail, binders, and handwritten documents. Like someone had tried to destroy everything all at once. Out there, far from anyone. It didn't feel random. Some people believe it could have been an attempt to wipe data, connected to something serious, maybe even a crime. Because if someone went that far to destroy those phones, what was on them? A traveler was crossing a remote stretch of the Arabian desert when he noticed something unusual glowing in the distance.
يختفي عشان تعرفون بفانوس في واحد من الشباب شوف ولع تولع ثاني شوف هذا الجن ابو فانوس قسم برب الكعبه انه جن ابو فانوس حلفت لكم بالله شفتوا هذا ابو فانوس شوف قاعد يكبس طلعوا الشله.
At first it looked like headlights far away, slowly moving across the horizon. Many people link sightings like this to something known as Abu Fanus, a mysterious wandering light said to appear at night, luring travelers off their path. In local folklore, it's often described as a jinn, a spirit that deceives people, leading them into danger or leaving them lost in the vast desert. And this wasn't the only time it's been seen. In another video, a man driving through the desert captured multiple lights appearing in the distance.
السلام عليكم مساكم الله بالخير يا رب ايش حالكم اخباركم الرب انتم تشوفون النور اللي على يمين شوف الحين طلع شوف هذا هو طلع هنا يسار شوف.
So what are these lights really? Residents of a small town in Asia reported hearing strange sounds at night coming from an abandoned cave a few kilometers away. Curious, he decided to investigate one evening. When they entered the cave, they saw something that immediately made their hearts race, and they recorded it. A woman appeared to be crawling. Was it simply an elderly woman lost and confused in the cave, or was she not entirely human? Sadly, no updates were ever provided. Retired U.S. Air Force Major General William Neal McCaisland walked out of his home in Albuquerque, New Mexico on the morning of February 27, 2026. And then, he vanished. Earlier that morning, everything seemed normal. A repairman had visited the house around 10 a.m., but sometime after that, McCaisland left on foot. When his wife returned home shortly after noon, he was gone. What immediately raised concern was what he left behind. His phone, his prescription glasses, and his wearable devices. All still inside the house. It was completely out of character. By that same day, authorities were alerted, and a search began almost immediately. A silver alert was issued, and deputies started going door to door, checking homes, nearby trails, and the surrounding desert terrain. As days passed, the search intensified. Helicopters scanned the area using infrared cameras. Drones and search dogs covered miles of rugged land. Investigators canvassed more than 700 homes and reviewed hours of surveillance footage. At one point, a grey sweatshirt was found about a mile from his home, but it was never definitively confirmed to be his. Despite all of this, there were no clear signs of where he went, and the environment itself made things even harder. Unseasonably warm weather caused the rocky terrain to retain heat, making infrared searches nearly useless. The entire landscape lit up, masking any possible human trace. Weeks later, authorities still couldn't answer the most basic questions. Where did he go? Why did he leave? And was anyone else involved? Investigators have said there's no clear evidence of foul play, but they also haven't ruled anything out. One detail that stands out: McCaisland had reportedly experienced episodes of mental fog prior to his disappearance. Though officials emphasized he was still highly intelligent and capable, some believe he may have gone for a walk and become lost or injured in the surrounding terrain, an area filled with cliffs, canyons, and hidden drop-offs. Others point to the unusual circumstances: an experienced outdoorsman leaving without essential items, and disappearing without a trace in broad daylight. Now, weeks into the search, the reality is becoming harder to face. If he made it into the wilderness, the chances of survival grow smaller with each day. All we can do now is hope for a miracle. A YouTuber, TVR Exploring, was exploring abandoned mining camps in Ingilchek, Kyrgyzstan, when he stumbled upon something unsettling. While moving through an underground tunnel, he heard a strange noise. It was hard to pick up clearly on camera because of the sound of running water, but he described it as unlike anything he could identify. Even though he's usually highly skeptical of the supernatural, the piercing sound freaked him out. Some suggest it could be the acoustics of the mine or wildlife hidden in the tunnels, but because the sound is so unclear, it's impossible to tell exactly what it was. Reddit user Substantial Layer 586 was camping alone on remote BLM land in the desert when something strange jolted him awake early in the morning. It was around 5 a.m. Still inside his tent, half asleep, he suddenly heard something strike the fabric right near his head. Then it happened again and again. Something was being thrown at his tent, hitting the exact same spot. At first he froze, listening. Then he quickly looked outside. Nothing. No people, no animals, just empty desert in every direction. Later, he shared a photo of his campsite, and it raised even more questions. There were no trees above him, no cliffs, nothing that could have caused debris to fall from above. Some people suggested it might have been small animals. Others thought maybe rocks had been kicked loose somehow. But the repeated, targeted hits didn't feel random. It felt deliberate, like something or someone was out there in the dark, aiming directly at him. So the question is, what was really out there that morning? A person was walking through the desert when they noticed something strange. A small patch of dirt forming a perfect circle. It looked out of place, almost too perfect to be natural. Curious, they reached down and disturbed it, and suddenly, this happened. From beneath the ground, a spider burst out, then quickly pulled the door shut behind it. The entrance blended seamlessly with the surrounding dirt, making it nearly impossible to spot. This is known as a trapdoor spider, a master of camouflage that hides just beneath the surface, waiting for prey to pass by. So, next time you're walking through the desert, be careful where you step. While exploring a remote part of the Colorado desert, this person came across something that immediately stopped them in their tracks. In the middle of the empty landscape sat a small, damaged doll, placed carefully in front of a toy piano, as if it had been playing just moments earlier. But the longer you look at it, the more unsettling it becomes. There are no footprints, no signs of anyone nearby. Some people believe it could be an art piece, or something someone left behind during a trip, but out there, in such an isolated place, that explanation doesn't fully sit right. A man living on a remote rural property in the desert captured something deeply unsettling on camera. A figure appeared at his door, claiming to be his neighbor. The problem is that he has no neighbors. The nearest house is kilometers away. At first, it could seem like a trespasser or someone casing the property, but watch closely as the figure leaves. Instead of walking away like a normal person, it appears to slide unnaturally out of frame. Viewers who analyze the clip are divided. Some say it's just a would-be thief testing whether anyone's home. Others point to the strange movement and suggest it resembles descriptions of a sinister witch, an entity that mimics human behavior just enough to get close, but can't manage a normal exit. The man says he's lived on the property for years and has never had anyone show up unannounced. The isolation of the location makes the visit even harder to explain. Two men were exploring a mountainside when something unusual caught their eyes. Hovering just above the hilltop was a white thing. Curious, the men ran uphill trying to get closer, but as they reached it, the orb rose into the sky. Confused, they uploaded the footage online, leaving many others just as puzzled. Reddit user Aggravated Android was traveling through a remote desert when they came across something that felt completely out of place. In the middle of nowhere, they found a small motel filled with clown figures. Curious and a little uneasy, they stopped to take a closer look and snapped a photo. The entire place was covered in clowns. Inside, outside, everywhere you looked. And right next to it, an old cemetery. After doing some research, it turns out this place is very real, known as the Clown Motel in Tonopah, Nevada, often called America's scariest motel. It sits beside a historic miners' cemetery, where graves date back over a century, many tied to tragic deaths. Inside the motel, there are thousands of clown dolls and figurines, some donated by visitors from around the world, some even rumored to be haunted. Guests have reported strange experiences, unexplained noises, objects moving, and the constant feeling of being watched. Even paranormal investigators claim to have captured shadow figures and voices. Whether you believe the stories or not, one thing is certain: finding a place like this in the middle of an empty desert would make anyone stop and wonder why it exists at all and who would actually stay there. A 30-year-old mother of two named Angie Fuller set out on what should have been a normal drive through Australia's Northern Territory, but it would become one of the region's most haunting unsolved cases. After spending Christmas with her family, Angie returned to Alice Springs, excited about a new job and a fresh start in life. On January 9, 2023, she was last seen on a CCTV at a truck stop just outside of town. She wasn't alone. She was with her boyfriend, later identified as Jake Jefferson Peters, someone her own family barely knew existed. Just hours later, everything changed. Sometime in the early morning, Angie's car, a burgundy Toyota Corolla, was involved in a violent incident on the remote Tanami Road. When police later found the vehicle, it was abandoned. No sign of Angie, no sign of anyone. According to her boyfriend's account, after the crash, the two of them ran off into the desert together, claiming they were being chased. He said they fled barefoot into complete darkness, before becoming separated somewhere in the vast outback. And that's where his story raises serious questions, because somehow he made it out alone. He later reappeared and reported Angie missing nearly 2 days later, but to this day there's no clear explanation of how he navigated out of that remote desert, why he didn't seek help immediately, or what exactly happened in those missing hours. Police have called his behavior unusual, and he remains a person of interest. Not long after, he left the area and was later arrested in another state for unrelated violent crimes. Meanwhile, Angie was never found. Search teams combed the harsh terrain using helicopters, bikes, and ground crews. But in a place that vast, clues disappear quickly. Police now believe she likely met with foul play within a critical 48-hour window after the crash. Her phone was never recovered. Her keys are still missing. And despite a reward now reaching up to $1 million, no one has come forward with answers. A woman was driving down a Nevada road when police pulled her over, not for a violation, but to let a wide load pass. What came into view next left her stunned.
This is the reason why the police pulled us over. Oh my gosh, what is that?
A massive truck rumbled by, carrying an enormous object on its trailer. Nevada is home to countless research facilities and military test ranges, including the notorious Area 51, which means the object could be anything: a secret weapon, an experimental aircraft, or even part of a space mission. Some people suggest it could be connected to extraterrestrial research, a piece of alien technology being transported under tight security. Others think it's simply a classified military project, nothing more. Just another mystery this desert carries. Reddit user White Shane Diesel shared this clip from a Middle Eastern desert. From the edge of a steep drop, sand was pouring down like a waterfall, moving continuously as if it were liquid. It might be a sinkhole or a dangerous collapse forming beneath the surface. Others pointed out that this could be a rare natural phenomenon, a sandfall. Impressive, right? I'm continuing to follow the case of an 84-year-old woman named Nancy Guthrie. She was last seen at her home in the Catalina foothills north of Tucson, Arizona, on the evening of January 31st, 2026. The next morning, her family realized she was missing. Her phone, purse, and daily medication were still inside the house, and investigators found blood on the porch suggesting she did not leave voluntarily. Surveillance footage showed a masked individual outside her home late that night, raising fears that Nancy might have been taken against her will. The residence was treated as a crime scene, and both the FBI and local police remain actively involved. Nancy's disappearance drew national attention because her daughter is Savannah Guthrie, co-anchor of NBC's Today Show. Savannah has publicly pleaded for information, urging anyone with tips to come forward. Weeks into the search, no confirmed sightings or arrests have been made, and the case remains unsolved. Some wonder if Nancy was abducted, while others question whether she might have wandered off, though her health and limited mobility make that seem unlikely. Where is Nancy Guthrie, and what really happened? Let's all hope she's found safe and returns home soon. A group of tourists was exploring a remote area in Africa when they came across something chilling. On the ground lay the torn-apart body of a wild boar. At first, it looked like a predator attack, but something about the scene didn't add up. The boar had been ripped apart cleanly in the middle, as if by something far stronger than usual wildlife. Nearby, large footprints were pressed into the muddy earth. One of the tourists compared the size of their own foot to the prints, and realized they were nearly twice as big. The tracks led up a hill and scattered around the area, but the boar's body had been left untouched. Some say it could be a wild animal, but others wonder if something far stranger, something resembling Bigfoot, was responsible. In a remote corner of South Africa, a legend has haunted the Karoo for generations. Reddit user CommonUnlucky390 recently shared a thread compiling local folklore, rock art, and modern sightings. The Karoo is a sun-scorched semi-desert, one of the driest places on the continent, but locals whisper about something lurking in its deep rock pools: mermaids. The most famous story comes from Ring Sport, a narrow mountain pass in the Swartberg Range. A dark-haired figure is said to inhabit the pools there, controlling the rain. When she's content, water flows. When angered, drought follows. A terrifying power in such an unforgiving land. Ancient sandrock paintings in the Klein Karoo show fish-tailed human figures. Anthropologists debate whether these depict real sightings, ritual symbols, or mythological water spirits passed down through oral tradition. The legend resurfaced in the 1990s after severe floods swept through Ring Sport. Rumours claimed a mermaid had been carried away, with her remains there displayed in a museum. No evidence has ever been verified, yet the story endures. Even today, travellers report hearing sounds near the water, and locals speak of pale figures brushing long hair by the pools, vanishing when approached. The Karoo was once submerged under an ancient inland sea, and fossils of marine life still appear in the rocks, adding another layer to the tale. Are these mermaids ancient mythology shaped by a harsh environment, a memory of when the desert was underwater, or something stranger still, glimpsed in the pools of Ring Sport? A 30-year-old woman named Lauren Cho had traveled to a remote desert area near Yucca Valley, California, where she was staying with a small group of people at an artist-style retreat. On June 28, 2021, something suddenly changed. That afternoon, Lauren left the property on foot, alone. According to those who were with her, she appeared distressed, and she walked off into the desert without her phone, food, or water. When she didn't come back, concern quickly grew. Later that same day, around 5 p.m, she was officially reported missing. Search efforts began almost immediately. Authorities brought in helicopters, search dogs, and ground teams, covering miles of harsh, rugged terrain. They searched the property, then expanded outward into the surrounding desert, but there was no trace of her. Days passed, then weeks, then months. It was as if she had completely vanished into the landscape. Then, on October 9th, human remains were discovered in a remote area of the desert, not far from where she was last seen. Later that month, officials confirmed the remains were Lauren Cho, but even then, there were still no clear answers. Authorities never publicly confirmed a cause or manner of death, and toxicology results were not released. There were no confirmed signs of foul play, but also no definitive explanation. Some believe she may have become disorientated in the extreme desert conditions. Others still question what really happened in those final hours. A man was out late at night with his friends when he noticed something strange crawling nearby, so he decided to record it. At first glance, it didn't even look real. Some people thought it was a rare insect, others weren't so sure. After doing some research, I came across what many call the creature from hell, but its real name is Paranchestus cornutus, and of course, it's from Australia. This bizarre-looking insect is actually a type of orthopterian, related to katydids and crickets. Those long, spindly legs help it move quickly across rough terrain, and its unusual shape makes it look far more threatening than it really is. Despite its appearance, it's completely harmless to humans and mostly feeds on plants. That alien look is actually a defense mechanism, meant to confuse or scare off predators. But still, if you saw this crawling towards you in the dark, what would you have done? a traveller exploring a remote area in Egypt came across this. Massive, perfectly carved stone basins etched directly into the ground. These structures are believed to be ancient, dating back thousands of years to Egypt's sun temples. Archaeologists link them to the worship of Ra, the sun god, one of the most important deities in ancient Egyptian belief. These enormous stone basins were likely man-made. But what exactly were they used for? Some historians believe they held water or sacred oils used in rituals and offerings. Others suggest they may have played a role in solar ceremonies, possibly reflecting sunlight or aligning with the sun's movement across the sky. Even now, their exact purpose isn't fully understood. For more scary desert encounters, watch this next video.